even though Lions off-season is already a week in, it already feels weird now that we're not going to have any Lions football until September. One thing we have to pass the time right now is Red Wings and hockey and Pistons basketball, as both teams still continue their runs at the top of the East in their respective conferences. And of course, the Pistons had a solid week overall, and the Wings had a really good week against some Canadian competition. So let's take a look at how Detroit sports fared this week.
Detroit basketball!
Well, starting off with the Pistons. Of course, the Pistons this week, start off with their biggest test of the year, with a game against the New York Knicks, which a lot of people say that this game against the Knicks could be potentially a preview of what the Eastern Conference Finals could be in the playoffs, if both teams make it that far, that is. As, of course, the Pistons and the Knicks, they're both battling with their top two teams in the Eastern Conference, and it's the first time these two teams have met since the playoffs last year. And, of course, I'm not sure what the Pistons did to motivate themselves for this game. I'm not sure if they saw the clip of Knicks fans last year chanting, "Fuck Detroit." But if they did, wouldn't be surprising if they did. I guess that clip was enough bulletin board material for them, as the Pistons just completely dominated the Knicks, laying belt to ass on the Knicks. As I think the Pistons saw what the playoffs last year in that clip from Knicks fans, and they took it personally. I think a 31-point belt to ass whooping is pretty personal. As you got the Pistons, their first big test of the year against the Knicks, and they beat the Knicks. I think that just shows the Pistons truly are for real. Considering that, the Knicks came this close last year to making the NBA Finals before falling to Indiana in the Taliban. But yeah, we pretty much say it also feels good to beat the Knicks, especially with how much shit Knicks fans were talking all week, especially NYG31. All I say to them is, hey, Knicks fans, you want to go to the NBA Finals this year? You're going to have to go through the 3-1-3 to get there. And the Pistons followed that up with another belt-to-ass whooping on Chicago against the Bulls. Even though the Bulls tried to make it close, the Pistons bench was able to make the Pistons pull away in the fourth quarter with a 15-point belt-to-ass whooping. Honestly, nothing else to see there. Just once again, the Pistons still owning the Bulls. Wait, actually, Detroit owning Chicago. Isn't that really now a thing in multiple sports now? Because the Red Wings dominate the Blackhawks. The Lions, despite finishing in last place, swept the goddamn Bears. And of course, let's not even talk about the Tigers owning the fucking White Sox, too. Like, honestly, Detroit owning Chicago must be a Detroit thing. At the end of the day, I'd rather be a Detroit bad boy than a toilet crybaby back bitch. But of course, the only real negative for the Pistons this week was the game sat last night against the Clippers. As the Pistons, that was easily a winnable game. The Pistons jumped out to a double-digit lead early, but the Pistons blew it in the second half as, they just had too many turnovers in that game. Honestly, a winnable game against the Clippers, but the Pistons just beat themselves and fell by 6. I mean, the only real positive I can take out of the Clippers game is, hey, at least Kawhi Leonard didn't drop 55 points on the Pistons this time. He only dropped 26 this time. So that's a 30-point improvement right there. But yeah, it just happens. Just some teams you do well against and some you don't. And for whatever reason, the Pistons struggle against the damn Clippers. The fucking team in LA nobody cares about. But yeah, still was a pretty solid week, getting 2 out of 3 wins. Pistons now sit at 28-10. I mean, they're still 4 games now ahead of the Knicks and the Celtics for first in the Eastern Conference. And with that win against the Knicks earlier this week, the Pistons now lead that head-to-head tiebreak over the Knicks. Like, for the Pistons to secure that tiebreaker against the Knicks, the Pistons need to win 2 out of 3 against the Knicks. So they need to beat the Knicks one more time to secure head-to-head tiebreaker if it comes down to that. And the Pistons are also 7 games still ahead of Cleveland for the division lead. Although divisions in basketball kind of don't mean anything when the division winners don't even get the top 3 seeds anymore, which that's pretty fucking dumb. But yeah, still a solid week for the 3-1-3. as Detroit basketball continue to reign supreme. Now we get to the Red Wings this week, as the Wings had a solid week against some Canadian competition. As of course the week started with a trip up to Ottawa, the nation's capital of Canada. Because fun fact for some people that don't know, if they've been living under a rock, Toronto or Montreal are not the nation's capital of Canada. That honor belongs to Ottawa. And I'll be honest, it probably should either be Toronto or Montreal, since Ottawa's a massive shithole. But Detroit went into that shithole in Ottawa and they took care of business against the Senators. And of course, Wings fans always take the games against Ottawa personal, since for some reason, the Senators got voted as the most hated team by Red Wings fans in a recent videos and surveys. It's like, how the hell did that happen? No. I'm calling bullshit on Ottawa being the Wings' most hated team. I'm calling bullshit right off that. Ottawa has been too irrelevant in their return to the league to be the most hated by the Wings fans. If anything, the most hated team in the Wings fan base should either be Toronto or Chicago, one of those two. I'd probably lean more to Toronto right now, since Toronto is currently a division rival to Detroit, while Chicago hasn't been a division rival to Detroit since 2013, outside that one pandemic year in 2021. I mean, but then again, if you were a Detroit fan growing up, you were always born to hate Chicago. So it honestly should be Toronto or Chicago. Ottawa's been too irrelevant to be the most hated by Wings fans. Even, I'll say this though, Ottawa's fan base is full of fucking retards though. I'll say that for sure. Well, that's what happens when your city's a massive shithole. But anyway, the Wings go in, take care of business, beat the Senators. And then the Wings followed that up with another win. With a win at home against the last place Vancouver Canucks. There's nothing else really to see there. Like, the Canucks are just obviously tanking to try and win the draft lottery for Gavin McKenna. As the Wings handle business there, not only did the Wings handle business, they also Patrick Kane would also get 2 goals in the game. And Patrick Kane, those 2 goals would be enough for him to hit the 500 goal plateau. The one negative about the 500 goal mark is Patrick Kane's 500 goal was an empty netter. Honestly, I would not want it to be an empty netter. I honestly would have wanted it to be with the goalie in the net and have it be a straight up goal, no excuses. But hey, that's life at the end of the day. Life doesn't always go according to plan. I mean, it's pretty obvious it doesn't go according to plan, because I wanted Kane to get the 500 goal against Chicago a couple weeks ago. But sadly, that's life. Life doesn't always go according to plan. You don't always get what you want. But hey, Kane got the 500 goal mark, the 5th U.S. player to hit 500 career NHL goals, so congrats to Kane on that. Well deserved by Patty Kane and Showtime. And then the Wings followed that up with a dominant win in Montreal for first place in Atlantic Division against the Canadiens. As the Wings took care of business in a pretty much perfect road game for the Wings. Getting the job done on the road in Montreal, shutting them out 4-0. Pretty much not letting Montreal have any hope in this game, and just completely making Bell Center more quiet than a damn library. Like, any chance that Montreal had in this game was killed in the third period when Alex DeBrincat pretty much called game with scoring 34 seconds in the third, before Andrew Copp really called game with the empty netter to make it 4-0. But yeah, great win by the Wings overall. Sadly, they don't get first place in the East since Carolina won against Seattle. So Wings still second in the Eastern Conference. Still lead the Atlantic Division now by 1 point over Tampa Bay. But Tampa Bay still has 3 games in hand over Detroit. But Detroit leads first place in the Atlantic. As really, the Atlantic this year, it's really been a 3-way battle for the top spot between Detroit, Montreal, and Tampa Bay. As those 3 have combined to spend all but 7 days at the top of the Atlantic. The only team that's had time at the top of the Atlantic outside those 3 was Florida for 7 days. Outside that's been Detroit, Tampa, and Montreal this year that's been dominating the Atlantic Division. Which honestly, well, Tampa Bay was expected. Montreal and Detroit, it's kind of crazy how far these 2 have come in the last couple years. But yeah, Detroit gets it done against an original 6 rival in Montreal. And now the Wings now sit 1 point behind Carolina for first in the Eastern Conference. And of course, the Wings, they don't have to wait much longer against Carolina to possibly get the first place in the East, since the Wings do play the Hurricanes on Monday. And the Monday game is going to be big for the Wings, because Monday, the day has finally come. No, not that announcement. No, we're not talking about NASCAR shit right now. I'm talking about the bigger announcement. Yeah, that one. That's more like it. Yes, Monday, the day is here. The night we finally retire Sergei Fedorov's 91 and hang it to the rafters at Little Caesars Arena. Another number to hit the rafters. I believe this will be the first jersey retirement since Jim Kelly, I believe. Or, yeah, Jim Kelly a few years ago when we retired his 4 to the rafters. So that will be another number going up in the rafters at Little Caesars Arena. Fedorov's 91 will finally take its place in the Little Caesars Arena history. But yeah, there's a lot I want to say about Fedorov's 91 being retired, but you know what? I think I'm going to put a cliffhanger on it, and we're going to wait till next week's recap to give my full thoughts on it and how much it means to the organization to finally retire Fedorov's 91. But anyway, that wraps it up. A solid week out of Detroit sports overall, as Red Wings hockey continues to reign supreme. Maybe the Wings truly are for real this year. Maybe I have been missing something about the Wings all this time. And Detroit basketball continues to reign supreme. Nothing honestly could ruin Detroit sports this week. Except that. That might. God damn it, Chris Illich is such a cheap piece of shit. Honestly, if he tries anything with the Wings at the deadline, Eisman should honestly just grow a pair of balls and tell Illich to fuck off and leave him alone. Seriously. Illich definitely gotta be up there for the top 5 worst owners in sports.